Her career crumbled when a racist judge upheld fake police evidence, sending an innocent man to prison. Amara Evans faced betrayal in a system rigged against her. But within a week, events unfolded so dramatically, they left everyone speechless. What happened next will shock even the most skeptical. Let's start from the beginning. Amara Evans, a sharp-witted and determined young black attorney, stands at the forefront of her community's fight for justice. With her deep brown eyes burning with conviction and her natural curls pulled back into a sleek bun, she exudes a commanding presence in the courtroom. A graduate of a prestigious law school, Amara is renowned for her unyielding dedication to exposing systemic flaws within the justice system. Her reputation as a fierce advocate precedes her, but so does the weight of prejudice she faces in a small town entrenched in racial inequality. Her client, Darnell Hayes, is a passionate community organizer and a vocal advocate for social reform. He has worked tirelessly to uplift marginalized neighborhoods, often putting himself at odds with local authorities. When he is accused of theft, it's clear to Amara that he has been targeted, not for what he's done, but for what he represents. Despite the uphill battle, she accepts his case, determined to prove his innocence in a system that seems designed to crush him. The trial unfolds in a courthouse presided over by Judge Wilbur Crane, a staunch traditionalist infamous for his unwavering support of law enforcement, even in the face of questionable evidence. The tension in the courtroom is palpable as the police present a grainy surveillance tape that supposedly shows Darnell committing the crime. Amara, with her meticulous attention to detail, quickly identifies inconsistencies in the footage. Poor editing, mismatched timestamps, and shadows that don't align. She raises these points with clarity and logic, her voice steady and firm, but her objections are dismissed without a second thought. Judge Crane, his expression cold and unyielding, accuses Amara of disrespecting law enforcement and disrupting the integrity of the court. His words sting, but Amara doesn't flinch. The crowd, filled with Darnell's family and supporters, murmurs in outrage, but the judge silences them with a sharp gavel strike. When the guilty verdict is delivered, Darnell's mother collapses in grief, her sobs echoing through the room. Amara promises her client that this isn't the end, vowing to appeal and fight until the truth prevails. As the gavel falls, the courtroom feels suffocating with the weight of injustice, but Amara's resolve remains unbroken. In the wake of the unjust verdict, the town erupts in protest, its streets alive with chants demanding justice for Darnell Hayes. Community members, furious over the obvious miscarriage of justice, organize marches and rallies, their signs and voices highlighting the systemic racism that permeates their local justice system. Social media explodes with hashtags like Justice for Darnell and #CraneCorruption, as posts exposing the trial's glaring flaws go viral. Videos dissecting the doctored surveillance footage and recounting Judge Crane's dismissive behavior circulate widely, igniting outrage far beyond the town's borders. Amara Evans, undeterred by the verdict, plunges into action. Working late into the night, she reviews every detail of the case and uncovers damning patterns within the police department. Her investigation reveals a disturbing strategy, targeting community leaders like Darnell, who challenge the status quo. Amara contacts legal reform organizations, civil rights attorneys, and investigative journalists, building a coalition determined to hold the system accountable. Meanwhile, Judge Wilbur Crane, seated comfortably in his oak-paneled office, dismisses the uproar as fleeting. In a private discussion with a longtime confidant, he admits his personal disdain for Amara, whom he sees as a disruptive force in the courtroom. Her rising influence and relentless pursuit of justice threaten the old guard he embodies. Confident in his power and connections, Crane scoffs at the idea of consequences, certain his position on the bench is unassailable. Unbeknownst to Crane, cracks are forming in his fortress. A whistleblower within the police department, disgusted by the corruption, leaks the unedited surveillance footage to Amara and the press. The unaltered video exonerates Darnell, exposing the blatant fabrication of evidence used to convict him. When the footage is made public, it sends shockwaves through the town and beyond. Protests grow larger, and calls for Crane's resignation reverberate from City Hall to national newsrooms. As the truth unfolds, Amara's relentless work and the community's outcry begin to turn the tide, forcing the town to confront the depth of its systemic rot and setting the stage for long overdue change. 1 week after the scandal breaks, the courthouse buzzes with anticipation as a judicial review panel gathers to address the fallout. A sea of reporters, activists, and concerned citizens surrounds the building, all eager to see whether justice will prevail. Inside, the air is tense but resolute. Amara Evans stands at the center of the proceedings, radiating both determination and grace under pressure. Armed with the leaked unedited surveillance tape and statements from whistleblowers and honest officers, she is ready to make her case against Judge Wilbur Crane. As the hearing begins, Amara steps forward, her voice steady but charged with emotion. She recounts Darnell Hayes's wrongful conviction in chilling detail, presenting irrefutable evidence of corruption and manipulation. Her arguments don't stop at the case itself. Instead, she widens the lens, highlighting how systemic racism perpetuates injustices that disproportionately harm marginalized communities. Amara's words cut deep, blending undeniable facts with a call for accountability. Her passion is contagious, and even those on the panel who might have hesitated are drawn in by her resolve. As the room listens in silence, Amara concludes with a powerful statement. Justice is not a privilege for the few, it is the right of every citizen, regardless of the color of their skin. If we do not confront these injustices now, we are complicit in their continuation. The review panel, visibly moved, deliberates briefly before voting unanimously to suspend Judge Crane pending a full investigation. The decision is met with cheers from the gathered crowd, but the panel's next announcement leaves the room in stunned silence. To restore faith in the judiciary, the state announces the appointment of an interim president of the court, Amara Evans. The decision is unprecedented, a rare acknowledgement of the need for real change. Amara, taken aback but composed, accepts the position with humility. Her appointment marks a seismic shift in the town's justice system, symbolizing not just accountability, but hope for a fairer future. As Amara steps into her new role, the courtroom erupts in applause, a resounding affirmation that the fight for justice has only just begun. As the newly appointed president of the court, Amara Evans wastes no time tackling the deep-seated injustices within the legal system. Her first act is the creation of an independent review board tasked with investigating police misconduct cases. Comprised of legal experts, community leaders, and impartial citizens, the board is given the authority to hold officers accountable for abuses of power. Amara also champions mandatory bias training for judges and courtroom staff, aiming to dismantle the systemic prejudice that has long plagued the town's judiciary. Amara's reforms quickly make waves. Her leadership not only brings hope to the community, but sparks a nationwide conversation about equity and transparency in the justice system. Media outlets highlight her initiatives, and activists across the country point to her work as a blueprint for change. Despite the challenges, Amara remains steadfast, motivated by the belief that justice must serve everyone, not just the privileged few. Amid these changes, Darnell Hayes's conviction is overturned after the unedited surveillance tape and whistleblower testimonies are formally presented in court. Darnell is released to a jubilant crowd of supporters who chant his name, hailing him as both a victim of injustice and a symbol of resilience. Tears stream down his mother's face as she embraces her son, while Amara stands nearby, quietly proud but focused on the work still ahead. Meanwhile, Judge Wilbur Crane holds a press conference to issue a public apology. His carefully worded statement acknowledges errors in judgment, but many question his sincerity, viewing it as a hollow attempt to salvage his reputation. Amara, however, chooses not to dwell on Crane's downfall. Accountability is necessary, she tells reporters later, but our focus must be on building a system where such failures cannot occur again. In the final scene, Amara stands alone in her chambers, the glow of the city lights spilling through the window. Her desk is piled with documents detailing the next steps in her reform plan. Though the weight of her position feels heavy, her resolve is unshakable. She reflects on the journey that brought her here, vowing to ensure that no one else endures the injustice that Darnell faced. With her community rallying behind her, Amara feels the strength to move forward, ready to redefine justice.